welcome to another edition of the Waiver Report. After the endless trades last week, this week seemed relatively calm, but there's still plenty to talk about, so let's get to it. With Marshawn Lynch focused on his new TV show, he ran onto the field hoping to get suspended so he didn't have to deal with practice that week. Well, his plan worked out, which brought his two backups into fantasy relevancy. And this leads to the winner of the week, which is Capsh. Desperate for a running back with Marshawn suspended and Derrick Henry on a bye, Capsh knew he needed to get one of the Oakland RBs. The only problem was many other owners would also be trying to get them. So, he decided to take advantage of an extremely gullible owner. He took out his phone and texted Wags that he was putting $41 down on Jalen Richard. The outrageous bid made Jason cancel his $17 bid, seeing no point wasting his time bidding on a player he wouldn't put enough money down to claim. Well, the next morning we woke up to see the highest bid was $16 put down by none other than Capsh, $1 less than the bid Wagner would have put down. What a scheme, what execution, and it was much needed to gain the respect back from his fans after his recent failures. The loser this week goes to Spiller for being just the latest victim of a losing streak panic. While watching the Chargers-Broncos game this past week, Spiller was tearing out his hair as he saw undrafted midget Austin Eckler stealing carries and vulturing touchdowns from his prized possession Melvin Gordon. He didn't like what he saw from this one game and acted on impulse, placing a near $20 bid down on Eckler. The nearest bid was $0 since no one else even thought of bidding on him. He's possibly a solid handcuff, but you could have got him for free. Also, Melvin still got 18 carries that week, showing the Chargers still want to use him a lot. After last week, we thought Kevin had entered a new era, filled with bids that would actually be able to obtain players. Well, we were wrong. This week, Kevin went back to his old school days of refusing to spend money on players, placing a $0 bid down on Jalen Richard, DeAndre Washington, and Jake Elliott. Needless to say, he didn't get any of them. Here's hoping Kevin can figure out the auction system at some point this year. One matchup that comes with a lot of intrigue this week is when Wagner's nose travels south with a matchup against Next Man Up. Since the 0-5 start, Nose Mafia has been on fire and believes they can pull off the historic feat of becoming the first team in fantasy history to start 0-5 and somehow make the playoffs. But the team it faces is no pushover, with Next Man Up fighting off his QB plague for 2 straight weeks to gain the title of highest-scoring team of the year. Will Wagner's nose be able to continue the magic this week? Also, with the next Zeal Appeal scheduled for this Monday, this could be the last week Zeke is in the starting lineup until the fantasy playoffs. So a loss for Singer here could be detrimental. Another game I'm looking at is a matchup between the two 1-6 teams.
Viewer discretion is advised.
In what would have already been a disgusting game with all the regular starters in the lineup, Wilson has 5 people on a bye, forcing him to go with third-string tight end Tyler Kroft and upgrading Wendell Smallwood to the flex. But honestly, those 2 players have a chance to come through for him. Well, he's going to need it because this is a must-win for both teams. With each of them already having 6 losses only 7 games into the season, it's safe to say the loser of this game is pretty much eliminated from playoff contention.
One big thing.
My first time ever playing fantasy football was in 5th grade. All my friends' dads were in a league of their own, and they decided they want to get their sons hooked. The dads put 8 numbers into a hat, and one by one we picked a number where we would draft. I was lucky enough to get the first pick, and the first pick was a no-brainer for me. I would draft my favorite player ever, LaDainian Tomlinson. A consistent fantasy monster, LT led me to the championship in year 1. Powered by unstoppable role players like Jake Delhomme, I slept easy on the Super Bowl Eve, knowing the game was already won. I was right, as my game was over before the 3 o'clock games even started, with my opponent shitting the bed and looking like a rape victim, forcing him to quit the league and never return. With a ring on my finger, I was addicted. My dad was a commissioner of his league, so the next year I decided to continue the Marquis tradition, assigning myself to commissioner of the Glen Boys League. There were plenty of fun, competitive moments in the league's history, but the thing I will remember the most are the flaws. As time went on, I slowly realized I cared about fantasy way more than anyone else in the league. Once a year, there was an owner that would stop setting their lineup after week 2, and I would have to go in and set their lineup every single week. Other owners would constantly forget to adjust for bye weeks, and again, I would have to go in, pick up players, so there was no automatic wins. I ran a dynasty in this league, winning 4 rings in 7 years, but eventually I just lost the passion. What was the point of doing this if I was the only one getting enjoyment out of it? Well, that's why I took my talents to the ICPA. With owners treating their weekly matchup with a life or death mentality, this was the league I always dreamed of. However, recently I noticed some actions that show maybe we're taking this a little too far. Last week, Legner and I were discussing his problem of owning both Packer running backs and not knowing what to do. Jason said there's an easy solution to this. He said, quote, "All I need is for Ty Montgomery to get in a car crash and die, and then I'll have a stud running back too." End quote. With fire in his eyes and an evil grin in his face, I could tell he genuinely wanted Ty Montgomery to brutally die so it would open up the Packers running back situation. This was a gruesome and egregious statement to hear come out of the mouth of an owner of the ICPA. But he is not the only owner to be brainwashed by fantasy. Last week, in response to my text questioning how good his team would be without a stud woman beater, Singer replied, "No morals on this team, all winning." While I admire the competitiveness that fills the days this league exists, there's a point where it goes too far. When we reach the point of hoping curb stomping a woman goes unpunished, or praying that our 4th round pick has an 18-wheeler smashed through his windshield, then it's time we take a step back and look at ourselves in the mirror. It makes me look at myself as a commissioner and think of the precedent I have set. The ICPA is a prestigious league for a reason, because we are a highly competitive league with 12 owners that uphold our values of integrity and trade rate. I just hope we can continue without compromising these values.